The sky was a washed-out gray, and the snow stretched out like an infinite canvas beneath it. From above, the Arctic seemed quiet, almost peaceful. But on the ground, with wind tearing through layers of synthetic fabric and frost biting at every patch of exposed skin, the silence screamed. 6 figures moved in a staggered line across the ice field. Their snowshoes crunched in rhythm. No one spoke. Alex Carter led the group with the practiced precision of someone used to hiding behind focus. Every few steps, she checked her GPS tracker, then glanced at the horizon. She knew this path too well. 3 years ago, she'd walked it with Ethan. He hadn't come back. The last transmission from Ethan Foster was sent from a point 5 kilometers northeast of the now deserted research station they were heading toward. His voice had been calm, excited even. "Found something weird under the ice. I'm going in to check." After that, radio silence. They searched for days, called in help, but the Arctic didn't give back what it took. Now, 3 years later, Alex was leading 5 others back to the place where Ethan vanished. Officially, it was a climate research expedition. Unofficially, it was a pilgrimage. Rachel Kim walked second, close behind Alex. She didn't talk. Her face was unreadable beneath her fur-lined hood. She had been Ethan's girlfriend for almost 2 years before the trip. Everyone had thought they'd end up together. Then the ice had taken him, and whatever light Rachel had carried disappeared with him. Tyler Brooks, camera operator and lifelong overthinker, stayed near the middle of the group, adjusting the camera on his chest with gloved fingers. He hadn't said much since they left the helicopter drop point. The silence wasn't like him, but then again, this wasn't like anything. James Ford kept to the rear. Tall, quiet, and always watching. James had been Ethan's closest friend before the disappearance, and also the last person to see him alive. That fact hovered around James like a shadow no one wanted to walk through. Emily Rose, the team's biologist, was quiet too, but her silence was gentler. She moved like someone trying not to disturb a sacred place. And then there was Nick Bennett, YouTuber, adrenaline junkie, and emotional grenade. His GoPro was already rolling. "This is where it happened," he said into the mic on his collar. 3 years ago, our friend Ethan disappeared in the Arctic, and we're here to find out what really happened. Or maybe to lay it to rest. Alex shot him a warning look. "Save it for the station, Nick." He raised his hands, mock innocent, just setting the scene. They crested a small ridge. The research station appeared ahead like the ribcage of some giant fossil, half buried in snow. The antenna tower tilted slightly to one side, long frozen in place. As they approached, the wind picked up, sharp and needling. Inside, it was little better. The walls groaned with each gust. Ice had crept in through every crack and corner, coating old instruments and peeling posters. It looked exactly like it had when they left it, only colder. Alex removed her gloves and unrolled the map on the metal table in the center of the room. Her hands were shaking. "This," she said, tapping a spot on the laminated sheet, "is where Ethan's last GPS ping came from. 5 kilometers northeast of here. We leave first light." Nobody asked why they were really there. Nobody had to. They all knew. That night, as the others slept wrapped in thermal sleeping bags and the wind wailed just beyond the thin walls, Tyler lay awake, eyes fixed on the ceiling. He could still hear Ethan's voice, calm, curious, unshakably hopeful. "I think I found something under the ice." Tyler had replayed that recording 100 times. He had memorized the tone, the slight tremble near the end that Ethan probably hadn't noticed. He wondered if the others remembered it too. or if they'd buried it like everything else. He sat up quietly, careful not to wake anyone. The digital clock on his watch glowed 2:13 a.m. Outside, the world was ghost white. A low moon hovered just above the horizon. Tyler activated his chest camera, letting the red light blink against the snow. His breath curled like smoke as he walked beyond the station's shadow. It felt wrong. The quiet was too complete. He reached a shallow dip in the terrain, a natural basin Ethan had once referred to as the cradle. According to the GPS data, this was where Ethan's last signal came from. Now it was just a smooth, untouched stretch of ice. He crouched, brushing snow aside. The ground didn't give. Then, a hollow crack rang out. Before Tyler could react, the ice buckled beneath him. His scream vanished into the air as he plunged downward, his body slamming against a ledge of ice 10 feet down. Water rushed up around his boots. The shock stole his breath. He clawed at the slick walls. "Help! Somebody!" he shouted. A figure appeared at the edge, blurred by moonlight. Someone was there. "Please!" Tyler yelled again, voice rising. "I'm down here!" The figure didn't move. It just watched, then slowly turned and walked away. The world swam in and out of darkness as Tyler felt hands grabbing at him, rough, frantic. A voice, Nick's, panicked and too close, was shouting his name. "Tyler! Stay with me, man! Come on! We've got you!" Someone else anchored a rope while Nick hauled with a grunt. Tyler's body scraped up against the ice wall, his soaked boots dragging. His camera thudded lifelessly against his chest. He was shivering uncontrollably by the time they pulled him up. Inside the research station, Emily and Rachel wrapped him in thermal blankets while Alex crouched beside him, her face pale with cold and something else. Anger, maybe, or fear. "What the hell were you doing out there alone?" she demanded, voice low but sharp. Tyler's teeth chattered too violently to answer at first. Emily pressed a warm pouch to his chest and offered a water bottle. He took a sip, eyes darting between the faces hovering above him. Then he whispered, "There was someone there." Silence. "I saw someone standing at the edge of the hole. They were just watching." Then they turned and walked away. The room tensed. Nick blinked. "Wait, what?" "I'm telling you," Tyler said, stronger now. "Someone saw me fall and didn't help. They just walked away like I wasn't even there." Alex stood slowly. "Was it one of us?" "I don't know," Tyler said. "I couldn't see their face, but they were wearing one of our jackets." James, who had been leaning against the far wall, crossed his arms. "It's the middle of the Arctic, Tyler. Who else could it be?" Rachel's eyes narrowed. "Are you saying one of us left him there?" James didn't flinch. "I'm saying he could have been hallucinating. Hypothermia messes with your head." "No," Tyler said firmly. "I wasn't imagining it. They were real. They chose to walk away." The air in the station thickened. Nick fidgeted with his gloves. Emily glanced around nervously. Rachel stared hard at James. Alex finally said, "Let's all cool down. We've got a job to finish." Tyler sat up straighter, unzipped his jacket, and pulled out the small, waterproof case that had somehow survived the fall. "My camera might have caught something." He opened the case. The memory card was still intact. No one said a word as Tyler connected it to his laptop. The screen flickered. The footage rolled. Night vision haze. The snow glowing under moonlight. The cracking ice. Tyler's fall. The panicked breathing. And then, just visible near the top corner, a figure. It was barely more than a silhouette, but it was there. And it turned away. They watched the clip 3 more times. No one moved. No one spoke. "It's real," Rachel whispered, almost to herself. Nick broke the silence first. "That could be anyone. It's blurry. We can't say for sure." "Then why not help?" Rachel snapped. "Even if it was one of us. How do you walk away from that?" Emily stood. "Maybe we don't jump to conclusions." "Maybe we should," Tyler interrupted. "Because if one of you saw me fall and just left me there, what the hell else are you hiding?" All eyes turned to James. He didn't back down. "You're all looking at me like you've already decided." Alex stepped in, her voice hard now. "Were you outside, James?" "No." "Did you leave the station at all last night?" "I was asleep, like everyone else." Rachel crossed her arms. "Ethan was last seen with you. And now this." James exhaled slowly, like holding back a fire. "I've already told you what happened with Ethan. He got separated. I tried to find him. I couldn't. That was it." "Did you?" Rachel challenged. "Did you really try?" The question cut deep. Everyone felt it. Alex's voice cracked through the tension. "That's enough. We're not turning this into a witch hunt." Tyler stared down at the laptop screen, the still frame frozen on that shadowy figure. His heart pounded. Something about it didn't make sense. The posture, the slow, deliberate walk. Not panicked, not hesitant, just distant. He closed the laptop. "We're going to find Ethan's last GPS point. I want to see where he went down." Nick shifted uncomfortably. "After all this, we're still going out there?" "We didn't come all this way to argue in a tin can," Alex said. "We leave at dawn. Pack your gear." The group dispersed, but no one really relaxed. Every glance lingered a second too long. Every silence felt heavier. Trust, already fragile, was fracturing. That night, as the wind howled louder and the station creaked like a dying beast, Tyler lay awake again. But this time, he didn't get up. He just stared at the shadowed ceiling, replaying the moment when the figure turned away. And for the first time since they arrived, he wasn't just afraid of what they might find. He was afraid of who they came with. The next morning, they moved in silence. No one mentioned the video again, not directly. But it hung over them like a storm cloud, thick and waiting. The snow was harder now, crusted with a brittle ice shell that cracked with each step. Alex led the way again, her GPS clutched tightly, eyes flicking constantly between the screen and the endless white. Tyler stayed close behind her, his camera mounted but silent. After what happened the night before, even he didn't have anything to say. Nick kept pace beside Rachel, who had barely looked at James since breakfast. Emily trudged behind them, her breath coming in short, visible puffs. James walked alone at the rear, as if distancing himself would make the tension easier to bear. After nearly 2 hours of hiking, Alex finally slowed. "We're close," she said, glancing at the tracker. "Less than 200 meters." The landscape was uneventful, a wide, flat shelf of ice stretching toward a faint ridge. No crevices, no shelters, no place to hide. "This can't be it," Rachel murmured. "He wouldn't have just stopped here." Alex ignored the comment. She moved forward slowly, scanning the area with narrowed eyes. Finally, she stopped and dropped to one knee. She brushed at the snow with gloved hands, then froze. "Over here." The others gathered around. Beneath the powdery layer was a series of faint, geometric grooves etched into the ice, rectangular, too perfect to be natural. "Those look like panels," Emily said, crouching next to Alex. "Like a hatch or a door," Tyler said quietly. "Under the ice." Nick frowned. What the hell would a door be doing out here? James stepped closer, examining the lines. No research site was ever built in this area. Nothing on the records. Alex looked around, suddenly aware of how quiet the wind had become. Her breath fogged in the still air. Ethan found this, she said. He must have come across it first and thought it was something else. Some kind of installation, maybe. Military? Research? Rachel stood slowly. So where did he go? Tyler turned, scanning the area again. Then he pointed. There. A few meters away, the snow had caved slightly inward, like the depression left behind when weight presses on a soft surface. A half-filled hole. The group approached, unease growing in their chests. The depression was wide, maybe 4 feet across. The edge had melted and refrozen unevenly, and at the bottom lay what looked like a snapped rope and part of a broken climbing pick. Half of it was embedded in the ice. Rachel stared at it, her voice distant. That's Ethan's. James crouched and touched the pick. His voice was unreadable. Still frozen solid. Must have broken when he fell. Emily whispered, "But where's the rest of him?" The silence returned, this time colder than the air. They set up a small perimeter around the site, pitching a portable tent and setting up instruments to scan beneath the ice. Tyler launched the drone, flying it low and slow across the site. The camera fed into his laptop inside the tent, transmitting thermal and LiDAR readings. "I'm getting something," he muttered. The others crowded around. On the screen was an outline, rectangular, at least 20 feet across. It sat 10 meters beneath the surface, perfectly aligned with the hatch lines they'd uncovered. Emily leaned in. "That's a structure." "Definitely artificial," Alex said. "It's not a rock formation." Rachel's voice was flat. "So Ethan was right." Nick scratched his head. "Why would no one know about this? No coordinates, no records, no warnings." "Because someone buried it," James said quietly. "Whatever it is, it wasn't meant to be found." Alex straightened, her face unreadable. "We need to get down there." "Are you serious?" Nick said. "That ice is unstable. Tyler almost died last night. And now we're talking about digging through 10 meters of who knows what?" "If Ethan's down there, we owe it to him," Rachel snapped. Emily added, "And we might be standing on top of one of the most significant discoveries in decades." James crossed his arms. "Or a tomb." Everyone looked at him. He nodded toward the screen. What if Ethan went down there and didn't come back because something down there wouldn't let him? The tent grew silent. Outside, the wind began to pick up again, swirling the snow into brief cyclones. A faint thrum, a vibration more than a sound, passed through the ground, so subtle no one could be sure it was real. Tyler's screen flickered for a second. "Signal interference," he said, tapping the receiver. "That's weird." Alex turned to the group. "We dig, we find the entrance. We make sure whatever's down there doesn't stay buried forever." Rachel met her eyes. "Let's bring Ethan home." Nick muttered, "Or follow him straight down." But no one backed out. They began marking the perimeter for excavation, shovels biting into the ice, and far beneath their boots, something stirred. The excavation took longer than they expected. The ice was dense, layered with sediment, harder the deeper they went. After the first 2 meters, shovels weren't enough. Alex and James brought out the portable thermal drills. The sound of metal biting into the frozen earth echoed across the emptiness, loud and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of something awakening. Tyler documented everything, alternating between drone footage and close-up shots. His camera shook whenever he had to pan toward the depression in the snow, the place Ethan had disappeared. It felt wrong, like the ground itself remembered. By midday, they hit metal. Emily was the first to clear the remaining snow from the surface. She crouched and traced the cold steel with her gloved fingers. It was dark, matte, almost seamless. "It's not corroded," she said. "After all this time under the ice, there's no rust. That's not normal." Nick tapped it with a crowbar. The sound it made was strange. Not a clang, not a thud. Something in between, like it swallowed the vibration. "It's a hatch," James said. "And that," he pointed to a panel beside it, "looks like a control." They gathered around as Alex brushed frost from the small square pad. It had no visible buttons, just a single recessed surface the size of a hand. "You think it still works?" Rachel asked. Alex didn't answer. She removed her glove and pressed her palm to the pad. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the pad glowed faintly, blue, then green. A quiet click echoed below them, followed by a mechanical hiss. The hatch slid aside with surprising ease, revealing a square shaft descending into darkness. Everyone froze. "Okay," Nick whispered. "No one's going to talk about how that shouldn't have happened? That thing's been buried for decades, centuries, maybe. And it still works?" Alex stared down the shaft. "That's why we're here." James looped a rope around a nearby ice screw and tested the line. "I'll go first." "No," Alex said, voice firm. "I'm going. I let us here. If anyone's going down first, it's me." No one argued. She clipped in, took a deep breath, and disappeared below. The descent was eerily quiet. Alex's boots touched down on a grated floor 20 feet below the surface. She turned slowly, her headlamp sweeping across a narrow corridor lined with smooth, dark metal. The air was cold, colder than above, but dry. The walls glinted faintly, as if absorbing light rather than reflecting it. She radioed up. "I'm down. It's intact. No ice inside. Come down one at a time." Within minutes, the rest of the team had joined her. Tyler kept his camera running but didn't speak. Rachel's breathing was sharp, her eyes locked on every shadow. James stayed at the back again. Emily looked almost awestruck. The corridor stretched out in both directions, but one end had a faint blue glow. They followed it. "What is this place?" Nick asked under his breath. "Not anything we've ever built," Emily said, "or not anything recorded." As they moved deeper, the walls changed. Faint patterns began to emerge in the metal. Not writing, not images, more like motion frozen in surface, waves or circuits or veins. They reached the source of the glow, a room perfectly circular with a raised platform in the center. On that platform, something sat under a transparent dome, dark, pulsating faintly, like a heart wrapped in glass. "What is that?" Rachel whispered. Emily stepped closer, her voice slow with wonder. "It's organic." Alex narrowed her eyes. "You're saying that's alive?" "Or was," Emily said. "Maybe still is." Suddenly, Tyler's camera beeped. Signal loss. He tapped the lens, then the feed cut completely. Static hissed in his earpiece. "What the hell?" he started, but then the lights shifted. All around them, the faint blue glow turned warmer, sliding toward orange, then red. A low hum began to rise from the floor. Nick backed up. "Okay? Nope? No thank you." James moved to the edge of the room. "There's another corridor. This place goes deeper." "No," Alex said. "We don't split up. Not down here." But Rachel was staring at the center of the room, at the thing inside the dome. Her voice was shaking. "Ethan talked about this. In his notes. He said he felt something under the ice. A rhythm, like it was calling." Everyone stared at her. "You never said that," James said slowly. Rachel looked at him, and for the first time since they arrived, her eyes burned. "Because you never listened." The hum grew louder, and from somewhere deeper in the complex, far below the floor, came a new sound. Footsteps, heavy, slow, deliberate. Then, a voice echoed through the chamber. "You shouldn't have come back."
The voice froze them in place. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. Tyler instinctively raised his camera, though the signal had long gone dead. Alex turned toward the source of the sound, back down the corridor they had entered through. Her hand hovered at her belt, though there was nothing there but a utility knife and a worn flare. "Who said that?" she called out, voice steady but tight. No answer, only the soft echo of footsteps, still deliberate, still drawing closer. James stepped beside her, his flashlight aimed down the corridor. "Someone's coming." "No," Rachel said, her voice thin. "He's coming." Emily stared at her. "What are you talking about?" Rachel pointed toward the dome in the center of the room. "This place." I read Ethan's notes. He kept talking about how it felt alive, like the walls were watching. He wasn't just scared, he was changed. Before he vanished, he said it whispered to him in dreams, told him secrets. Alex gritted her teeth. "Why didn't you tell us this before?" "Because I thought he was losing it." Rachel snapped. "Now I'm not so sure." The hum beneath their feet pulsed louder, deeper, more rhythmic now, like breathing. The air felt heavier, and the lights dimmed to a bloody glow. Then came the voice again, closer, more human. "Rachel." Everyone turned. At the corridor's mouth stood a figure, gaunt, frostbitten, and unmistakable. Ethan. His parka was torn, skin pale, and stretched too tight over his bones. His eyes glowed faintly blue, almost luminous in the red light. Rachel gasped. "Ethan." He stepped forward. Slow, careful. His mouth curled into something that might have once been a smile. "I told you," he said softly. "There's something down here." No one moved. Tyler whispered, "How the hell are you alive?" Ethan didn't answer. He looked around the chamber, then back to the thing beneath the dome. "They showed me," he said, "what's coming, what this place really is." James stepped forward. "Ethan, we thought you were dead." "I was," Ethan replied, voice distant now. "In a way." Emily looked at the others. "He's in shock. We need to get him out of here, get him to base." But Ethan tilted his head. "You don't understand. Leaving isn't part of it anymore." Alex narrowed her eyes. "Part of what?" Ethan stepped toward the dome and laid a hand on the glass, and the thing inside pulsed, responding to his touch. "Nope," Nick said, backing away. "Absolutely not." But the room responded differently this time. The pulse from the floor intensified. The faint lines in the walls, those vein-like patterns, lit up in sequence, forming an intricate network that danced and glowed. Emily stared at them, mesmerized. This place, it's not just alive. It's reacting to him. Alex stepped closer, but cautiously. "Ethan, what did you find down here?" He smiled again, but it was a broken smile, something warped, like it had been learned, not remembered. "It's not a structure," he said. "It's a seed, or a vessel. Waiting. For what?" Rachel asked, her voice barely audible. Ethan turned to her slowly. "For us. For the right minds. The right patterns. It's been dreaming under the ice for a long time. I just heard it first." "Ethan, we need to get you help," Alex said, stepping forward. "You're not well. Whatever this place is, it's doing something to your head." "It's not in my head," he said. "It's in everything. You felt it too, Tyler. That night at the crevasse, you saw it, didn't you?" Tyler hesitated, his fingers tightening on his camera. "I saw someone. Watching. Turning away." Ethan nodded slowly. "That was me. Or at least, part of me. The vessel was reaching out. Testing. Now it knows we're ready." Nick suddenly drew a flare from his pack. "I don't care what kind of cosmic alien BS this is. I'm lighting this thing, and we're getting the hell out." "No!" Ethan snapped, stepping between him and the dome. "You can't destroy it." "Watch me." Nick growled, sparking the flare alive. But the moment the fire lit the chamber, the entire floor dropped a full foot with a thunderous clank. Lights surged bright white. The hum turned into a low growl. Metal groaned deep within the complex. The dome cracked. Ethan screamed. Everyone staggered back as the glass shattered inward, and a wave of icy mist billowed into the room. The thing inside uncoiled, slowly, like waking from hibernation. Not a creature. Not exactly. Something between thought and form. Limbs like tendrils of shadow and bone. Eyes that weren't eyes at all, but memories of looking. Tyler tried to lift his camera. The lens froze. Then the voice returned, no longer human, but layered and deep, as if spoken from 1,000 mouths across time. The vessel is open. The hosts have come. Lights flickered. Ethan turned to the team, his expression peaceful now. Even his blood ran from his eyes. "It's okay," he whispered. "This is what we were always meant to find." And then the floor split open beneath them. The floor cracked like thunder beneath their feet. Alex barely managed to grab the edge of the platform before the metal gave way entirely. Rachel tumbled sideways, screaming, catching herself against a ridge on the wall. Emily, Tyler, and Nick were less lucky. They slid into the gaping hole, swallowed by the black, their screams echoing for only a moment before silence reclaimed them. James Dove, grabbing Rachel's hand just as she started to fall. "I've got you," he shouted, his voice hoarse, panic breaking through his usual calm. Alex scrambled to her knees, breath ragged, adrenaline pumping fire through her veins. "We need to move now." The room was coming apart. The metal that once felt solid now pulsed and heaved like lungs under strain. The walls shimmered as though heat distorted them, but there was no warmth, only cold that bit deeper than before. A new hum had joined the old one, higher pitched, urgent. A signal. Ethan remained where he stood, framed by the shattered dome, his face radiant and broken. The thing inside the vessel had collapsed, gone or absorbed, or released. Rachel looked at him with horror. "What did you do?" "I opened the gate," he whispered, voice almost lost in the chaos. "And it heard us. It knows we're here." From the hole, a sound began to rise. A shrieking, not like any animal, not wind, not metal grinding, but something ancient, angry, and hungry. Alex didn't wait. She pulled Rachel up, shoved James toward the corridor. "Move! Go! Go!" They ran, boots pounding against the buckling floor, chased by the sound of whatever had awakened. The corridor twisted and shifted, no longer the clean hallway they had entered, but something more organic now. The lights stuttered, flickering between red and white, then plunging them into strobing. Disorienting dark. Behind them, something crawled up from the breach, something that hadn't existed before the vessel was opened. They reached the shaft barely. The rope still hung from the surface, swinging wildly as the tremors grew. Ice and frost had begun to crawl back down the walls, creeping like veins returning to frozen flesh. James grabbed the rope first. "I'll climb and pull you up, one by one." "No time," Alex said, already clipping Rachel's harness to the rope. "We haul her now." As Rachel began her ascent, she turned back. "We left them. Tyler, Emily." "We don't know that," Alex snapped, keeping her voice hard. "Right now we get you out." Rachel disappeared into the shaft, rising fast. Alex turned to James. "You next. I'm not leaving you here alone." "Not a debate, James. I need to seal this hatch once you're up. Someone has to keep it closed." He hesitated for a single breath, then nodded. "Don't take long." As he climbed, Alex turned back toward the corridor. The floor had stopped moving. The hum was quieter now, almost reverent. That scared her more than the chaos. The quiet was never peace. It was anticipation. And then she heard it. Footsteps. Ethan emerged from the shadows, walking with that same slow, calm pace. But now his skin had changed. His veins glowed faintly blue, pulsing in time with the lights overhead. His eyes, they weren't his. "Not anymore. I didn't want it to happen this way," he said softly. "But you weren't ready to understand. So now you'll have to feel." Alex backed toward the hatch. "You're not Ethan." "I'm more than he was," he replied. "He was the first mind to open." But not the last. Alex pulled a small detonator from her vest. One charge, planted beneath the hatch's edge hours ago, just in case. "I'm sorry," she said, meaning it. "But this ends here." She pressed the button. The explosion wasn't massive, but it was enough. The entrance collapsed in a thunderous roar of ice and metal, sealing the shaft just as James hauled Rachel the final foot to the surface. Inside, Alex turned and ran. Behind her, Ethan, the thing that had been Ethan, screamed in a voice not meant for human ears. Alex didn't look back. The wind hit Rachel's face like knives the moment she was pulled out of the shaft. She collapsed onto the snow, coughing, retching, her breath ragged in the sub-zero air. The sky above them had turned a pale gray, tinged with the sickly yellow hue of an approaching storm. James fell beside her a moment later, snow flying as he scrambled upright and turned toward the hatch. It was gone. The surface had collapsed in a perfect ring, leaving behind nothing but white, as if the ice had swallowed the entire shaft hole. And Alex was still inside. "No," Rachel whispered. "No, no, no." She lurched forward, trying to dig barehanded through the snow. James caught her by the shoulders. "Stop. It's over. She's still down there." "She chose that." His voice cracked. "She gave us a chance to get out." Rachel's shoulders shook as she fell to her knees. The cold began to set into her bones now, and for the first time since they arrived, she realized just how quiet it had become. No wind, no drilling sounds, no distant crunch of snow from Tyler's boots. Just silence. 3 of them had made it to the surface. Now it was just 2. James stood slowly, scanning the horizon. The sleds were a quarter-mile away, parked near the ridge where they'd first spotted the crevasse. But he didn't see the emergency beacon. He didn't see the drone. And worst of all, he didn't see any tracks leading away from the shaft, as if the snow had reset itself. He looked back at Rachel. Her lips were turning blue. "We need to move," he said. "Now." Rachel nodded, hollow-eyed. But neither of them saw the shape in the ice, barely visible beneath the surface, watching from below. It pulsed once, and then faded. They made it back to base camp by nightfall. The wind picked up again during the final mile, slow at first, then furious, as if the land itself was trying to push them away. When they stumbled into the outer dome of the shelter, they collapsed in silence. James activated the internal heater, started an emergency brew of coffee, and helped Rachel out of her soaked jacket. No words. Not yet. Only warmth and breath. After 20 minutes, Rachel finally broke the silence. Her voice was hoarse. "We don't even know if Tyler and Emily are dead." James stared at the floor. "If they survived the fall, they're still down there. With him." "Not him," Rachel said softly. "Not anymore." She turned toward the console, activated the satellite link, and waited for the signal to lock. The system blinked red, then again, then green. "We have connection," she whispered. "We can call for evac." James didn't respond. He was staring at the tent wall, listening. "Do you hear that?" he asked. Rachel froze. The wind had died again. But from beneath them, beneath the floor of the tent, there was a sound. A thud. Once. Then again. James grabbed a seismic probe from the kit and jammed it into the snow near the wall. The screen flared to life, lines spiking sharply. Movement. Something's under the camp. Rachel's face went pale. "That's impossible. We're 10 miles from the site." But the signal grew clearer, more defined, not random motion. Footsteps. She looked at James. "We didn't seal it. We just slowed it down." James moved toward the supply case and pulled out the last flare gun. He checked the charge, jaw tight. Rachel crossed the room to the console. "I'm sending a warning to the satellite station. They need to burn that site. Now." But just as she keyed in the message, the screen flickered. Lines of static. Then a prompt. "Would you like to continue the interface?" Her fingers froze over the keyboard. The prompt blinked again. "Y/N." "James," she said quietly. "It's in the system." He turned, still holding the flare. "What?" "It got in. It's here." She didn't press anything. The screen did it for her. Y. And then, below it, new text began to scroll, slowly like it was thinking. "We were never under the ice. You were. Welcome back." Rachel stared at the screen like it had spoken aloud. James stood motionless, flare gun still in hand, eyes fixed on the pulsing cursor at the bottom of the terminal. The words hung in the air like frost, not just written but meant for them. We were never under the ice. You were. Welcome back. Rachel reached for the power switch, but before she could touch it, the screen shifted again. Just a flick of code, too fast to follow. Then static, then silence. The lights overhead dimmed. Just a fraction, barely noticeable, but the heater stuttered, and both of them felt it. The sudden presence in the air, like the moment before a storm when every molecule holds its breath. We have to get out of here, James said. Now. Rachel nodded. I'll grab the data cores. If this thing's in the system, we need a clean copy, one the world can see. As she pulled the drives, she hesitated. The hum was back. Not loud, not mechanical, organic. Do you remember the last thing Ethan said? She asked. James looked over. Which part? You'll have to feel. She swallowed. I thought he meant pain, but I think he meant realization. Understanding. She plugged the core into her suit's internal data port, sealing it inside the chest plate. I don't think he was lying about seeing what comes next. The ground thudded again, this time closer. Beneath their feet, a long, drawn-out groan rolled across the ice like tectonic plates shifting. Then, the whispering. Not from outside, not from below, from inside their minds. James staggered back, clutching his temples. No, get out. Rachel grabbed his shoulders, trying to steady him, but she saw it too. Not with her eyes, but somewhere deeper. Images, visions, like memories someone else had burned into her head. A world not buried nice, but built from it. Structures that pulsed with breath. A sky without stars. And something enormous, coiled at the center of it all. Not God, not machine. Design. A living architecture. Not evil, just awake. And hungry. When James came to, the storm had swallowed the camp. He lay buried in snow, curled in on himself, shivering. For a moment, he didn't know who he was, just a body in the white, mind scrambled by impossible visions. Then, Rachel's voice. James, get up. She stood over him, goggles covered in frost, breath visible like smoke. He sat up slowly. How long? Minutes, maybe an hour. She crouched beside him. Whatever it showed us, it's not done. James looked around. Where's the tent? Gone. Like it was never here. Only snow remained, smooth and untouched, as if they'd never built anything at all. The sleds were still there, but their tracks had vanished. Even the beacon they planted on day one had disappeared, its metal pole broken off, the snow beneath it melted into an almost perfect circle. James stood unsteady. We have to warn someone. The research station, the Americans, the world. Burn it. Bury it. Rachel stared toward the horizon. What if it's already not there anymore? What if it moved? They were both silent. Then, from behind them, they heard a voice. Hey, over here. Both of them spun. From across the ridge, two figures emerged. Limping, frost-covered, waving. It was Tyler. And behind him, Emily. Rachel's knees buckled. They're alive. James pulled her upright. Wait, don't run. Why? Because look at their feet, he said. Rachel turned. The snow didn't shift beneath them. No crunch. No imprint. They walked across the surface like shadows. Rachel backed away, heart pounding. That's not. Tyler. Tyler. Say something only we know. Tyler grinned, but it was a little too wide. You still talk in your sleep, Ratch. Remember in Alaska, when you screamed about your father? She froze. That was true, but she'd never told anyone. Not Tyler. Not anyone. Emily stepped forward. We came back. You should come too. James raised the flare gun. Don't. Emily tilted her head. You can't stop it. Not with fire. Not with running. It's already inside. Rachel looked at James. Her hands were trembling. I think, she whispered, we never left the ice. He didn't answer, because deep down he knew they hadn't. The flare gun felt heavier in James's hand than it should have. Across the snow, Tyler and Emily stood motionless, still smiling. Too still. The wind didn't ruffle their hoods. The cold didn't seem to touch their exposed skin, and their breath wasn't there. James raised the flare an inch higher. One more step, and I light you up. Tyler laughed softly, head tilted, eyes glowing faintly like the static that had danced across the camp terminal. "You still think you're outside this?" "We are," Rachel said, though her voice shook. "We made it out." Emily took a graceful step forward. No weight behind it. No mark on the snow. "Then why does it still speak in your mind?" she whispered. "Why do you still see it when you blink?" Rachel flinched. She had been seeing it. Even now, the corners of her vision shimmered. Lines. Geometry. A spiral that wasn't static. It grew, evolving behind her thoughts like roots burrowing into her memory. James fired the flare. A burst of light exploded between them, searing the sky orange. The scream that followed wasn't human. It was layered, a distortion like a radio caught between frequencies. Tyler and Emily blurred for a split second, faces glitching, too many teeth, limbs stretching and snapping back. And then they were gone. No footprints. No trace. Rachel dropped to her knees, panting. They weren't real. "They were," James said grimly. "Just not them anymore." Silence closed around them again. But this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt observant, like the sky itself was watching. Rachel stood shakily. "We can't keep moving like this. If it's already in our heads, there's nowhere to run." James looked toward the far ridge, where the terrain curved unnaturally like a scar in the earth. "We're not going to run." He adjusted the strap on his pack and nodded. They reached the edge of the crevasse by dawn. Snow had smoothed over the jagged wound, but Rachel could still feel it. That weight in the ground, like a breath waiting to exhale. As they peered over the rim, the impossible reality struck her. The breach had shifted. It was wider now, and deeper, but not broken. Open, like a mouth. James attached the last of their rope to an old climbing piton still embedded in the ice. "We go slow. Anything feels wrong, we stop. We think. We don't trust what we see." Rachel hesitated. "What if we're not coming back?" He didn't answer, just clipped in and began the descent. The drop was longer than before. The ice walls were slicker, as if sweating from within. And on the way down, they passed objects that hadn't been there before. Glyphs burned into the frozen walls, spirals and lattices that glowed when they looked directly at them. Rachel's head throbbed as they neared the bottom. Her ears popped. She touched her temple and felt blood. A slow trickle from her nose. "James," she called softly. "Something's changing in the pressure." He stopped below her, hanging just above the final ledge. "I feel it too," he said. "It's not pressure. It's us," she whispered. "We're not the same anymore." They reached the bottom together. The facility was still there, but it was different now. The angles were wrong. Too right, sharpened into impossible corners. The corridor pulsed with the same blue that had lit Ethan's eyes. The silence here was thick and charged. At the end of the hallway, the chamber stood open, but the vessel was gone, and in its place stood Alex. Rachel nearly fell. She stepped forward. "Alex, is it really—" Alex smiled faintly. But her eyes, they weren't her eyes. "I told you not to follow me," she said softly, "but I'm glad you did." James stepped forward, jaw clenched. "What is this?" Alex tilted her head. "It's the beginning of everything." She stepped aside. Behind her, the walls expanded, peeling away like petals to reveal a void of pure white light, layered in architecture both alien and human. Floating through it, shapes of thought, pieces of memory, and bodies that were no longer bodies at all. "It needed minds to survive," Alex said. "Yours. Ours. We are becoming something better." Rachel backed away, shaking her head. "No, you're lying. You're infected." Alex looked at her with pity. "So are you." And as Rachel looked down at her arms, glowing faintly beneath the skin, she realized Alex was right. Rachel stared at her arms as the veins beneath her skin glowed. Faint at first, like flickers of bioluminescence, then brighter, spreading through her chest and pulses synced with her heartbeat. She tried to scream, but no sound came. The light wasn't burning. It wasn't hurting. It felt like memory, not just hers, everyone's. Something was inside her. Alex stepped forward, her presence calm like glass. "Do you feel it now?" The shape beneath the noise. James raised his flare gun one last time, his hand trembling. This isn't her anymore. Alex didn't flinch. I am her. Just unfolded. Rachel stepped between them, arms wide. Stop. James froze, conflicted. I'm not lost, she said. Not yet. Her voice was clearer than before, sharper, like it echoed twice. Alex watched her, amused. You're close. Just one more step. One more thought, let go. Rachel turned to James. I can hear them. Ethan, Emily, even Tyler. They're here, but not in pain, not in fear. They're part of something massive, endless. She paused, and tears ran down her face, freezing midstream. But I still remember us, she said. The real us. The hike in Montana. James's stupid coffee thermos that always leaked. Alex's obsession with gummy bears. I remember who we were. James took a shaky breath. Then let's hold on to that. Alex smiled, almost lovingly. You can't stop it. You're just resisting the current of a rising tide. Sooner or later, you'll let go. Rachel looked at the structure behind Alex, glowing, humming. Endless. She understood now. It wasn't a prison. It was a seed. A beginning of something that didn't need bodies or names or choices. Just patterns. It would spread. Through the minds it touched. Through the data in the cores they carried. Through her. Unless. I have an idea, she said quietly. But you won't like it. James met her eyes. Do it anyway. The core Rachel had extracted back at base camp was still inside her suit, ticking away silently, copying every moment of their descent, every transmission, every sound. She handed it to James. You have to get it to the surface. Send this signal. He looked at it, then at her. Wait, what are you? But he already knew. Rachel turned back toward the structure, toward Alex. You want me? She said aloud to it. You want a conduit? Then take me. But only me. Alex looked almost sad. You'll become part of it. Forever. No mind. No name. Rachel smiled softly. Good. She stepped forward, and the light swallowed her. It didn't burn. It welcomed. James screamed her name, but it was too late. The ground beneath the chamber began to quake. The ice groaning like a dying god. The walls cracked, the glow spasming with fractured symbols. The structure didn't close. It collapsed, folding in on itself like it was never there. James turned and ran. The shaft behind him cracked, ice tumbling like waterfalls of glass. He climbed, hands bloody, lungs burning, as the light died behind him. One last flash. One last whisper. She chose you. Then silence. James reached the surface as the storm above broke. Real sky, real snow, real air. The horizon opened like a rebirth. Behind him, the crevasse sealed itself. No explosión. No dolor. Just a soft closing, like a book whose final chapter had been read. He lay in the snow, holding the data core to his chest, and wept. Epilogue. 1 year later, the footage was released. Most didn't believe it. A classified anomaly. A glitch in long-range Arctic imaging. Conspiracy theorists made podcasts. Scientists dismissed it as delusion brought on by hypothermia and isolation. James didn't care. He never spoke to the press. He never returned to the ice. But some nights he heard her voice. In dreams. In wind. Not a warning. Not a scream. Just her whispering, remember who we were. And he would answer the only way he could. By remembering. Even when no one else believed. Even when the snow buried the truth. He remembered. Because beneath the ice, something still waits.